All right. Welcome, everybody. We're down to four days until the general strike against Congress, where we, the people, can say enough is enough. Something has got to change. And luckily, we have a very specific plan of what exactly should be changed. The Blueprint for a Better America is our crowdsourced legislative package that will end poverty, end mass incarceration, and end the endless wars. General strike on Saturday is a demand that Congress pass it within 10 days. We give them 10 days to act. And if they refuse, their challengers, who are willing to support immediate passage of the legislation, can earn our support. The blueprint is structured on the 5 duties in the preamble of the Constitution. So I like to start these meetings off by reciting the preamble as a reminder of what our duties, our responsibilities are as Americans. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Those are the 5 things that the United States, that Americans, we're supposed to be focusing on, both individually and collectively. And so we've already talked, as we've gone through these sessions, about how we can establish justice with major criminal justice reform, how to ensure domestic tranquility with a truce on guns and abortion, how to provide for the common defense in a way that more closely matches what the framers had in mind, and reducing our military budget, ending the endless wars. And tonight we're going to continue talking about Title IV, promoting the general welfare. Now, welfare has a very specific meaning. It means health, happiness, prosperity, well-being, and that is what Congress has a duty to promote. It's right there in Article 1, Section 8. Congress shall provide for the general welfare. And the easiest, simplest way for Congress to do that is with universal basic income. And so the Blueprint for a Better America includes universal basic income of $1,300 per month for adults, plus 1/3 of that, $433 for each child. And that will start every American family off above the poverty line. This is how we end poverty. And so the name of the Universal Basic Income Program is the American Union Jobs Program. The American Union Jobs Program. And it is universal basic income, but by structuring it as a jobs program, it helps tie together a couple of things. One is health insurance, right? We've talked about how the legislative package includes a public option for health insurance. And so your American Union job comes with benefits that you can get health insurance through that job. Which you always have. You can't be fired from an American Union job. It's universal basic income. You can't be fired any more than you could be fired from being an American. But that framework helps connect the idea of a public option, because you can get your insurance through there. Other benefits include the paid family leave for other employment, does not include the American Union Jobs Program. And the other benefits like the free public banking with the U.S. Treasury. That's part of it. The other part of the other reason for structuring this and calling it the American Union Jobs Program is because it's a reminder that as Americans, we have duties. Those 5 duties we just listed in the preamble, those are our duties. And so your American Union job is go be a better American. Go establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Go do those things better. America wants to see the American Union wants to see every American succeed. at doing those things. And the American Union Jobs Program is a way of empowering the 60% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck to help them do better. And you think of all the things that Americans do that is valuable, that is work, but is not employment. And so the American Union Jobs Program, as universal basic income, will unlock more of that. You can take the time off to go serve on a school board, to coach a little league team, to spend more time with your kids and ensure domestic tranquility at home. Like, there are so many things that you can do. And if all you're doing is just working, well, that's promoting the general welfare. And so it's a $1,300 a month raise. That's what the American Union Jobs Program is. That's the name of our universal basic income program. And so tonight we're going to go into more details about exactly how it works. Again, this is the distribution program. It's paid by the U.S. Treasury in Treasury dollar bills, as we talked about 2 nights ago, which are digital assets that are pegged to the value of a Federal Reserve note, not like the cryptocurrencies that you see whose value fluctuates all wildly and like that, but a stable digital asset backed up by the full faith and credit of the United States of America. And so those digital dollars would be issued as citizens' universal basic income. Before we, let's go ahead and start off with section 441. This is the findings for the universal basic income. Before I get into 401. No, I was correct the first time. It is section 441. I just want to talk a little bit more about why universal basic income. I'm going to get into like some of the facts of the real social benefits that we see. But one of the issues that people raise is, why universal? Why should Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, why should they get a universal basic income? And the answer is because they're Americans too, that this is an equal hand up to everyone. Now, obviously, not everyone needs a hand up. Some people are doing quite well in this economy, but lots of people aren't. But rather than create a whole bunch of bureaucracy to sort out who's worthy, who's not worthy, give everyone an equal hand up. That's what universal basic income is. It establishes a safety floor that no American can fall beneath. If there was a fatal flaw discovered in Microsoft's Windows software tomorrow, and Bill Gates lost all his money, he could still count on $1,300 a month from his American Union job. Another important aspect of this is two other important aspects. One is avoiding stigma, that it ensures that everyone benefits, that no American is treated differently than any other American. Equality under the law. And second, by virtue of making everybody equal under this program, it avoids the problem that we have with so many other programs where people are divided. And because then politicians like to pit one group against another and say, oh, those people are costing you tax dollars, elect me, and then we'll smash them down. And then that way your taxes will go down. By putting everybody on the same page, we can avoid those sorts of things and instead lift everybody up. All right, I'm going to read the findings into the record here for section 441. What is the purpose of the American Union Jobs Program? Congress finds the following. 1, America has sufficient resources to ensure that none of its citizens live in poverty. The easiest, simplest way to do so is with universal basic income, a regular amount of cash distributed to all citizens. In his book, The Road to Serfdom, Hayek advocated for assuring some minimum of food, shelter, and clothing to everyone. However, individuals are best suited to decide what their own specific needs are. Providing fungible cash gives people the liberty to make their own choices. 2, it is the unconditionality and universality that brings many of the intangible benefits of UBI. Finland's experiment, they found recipients experienced increased trust, something America could benefit from when they felt supported by those around them. Many societal benefits of addressing wealth inequality have been well documented in books like The Spirit Level, Why Greater Equality Makes Societies Stronger. 3, as a form of UBI, the American Union Jobs Program will establish a safety floor that no one can fall beneath at $15,600 a year annually for adults, plus $5,200 for children, allowing tens of millions of our countrymen to fall into poverty through the holes in our existing safety net demonstrates we are failing in our constitutional duty to promote the general welfare, health, happiness, prosperity. Now, combined with Treasury dollar bills and a public payment infrastructure, it will bring millions into the banking system and reduce demand for predatory lending. 4, the health of the nation will also benefit from ending poverty with UBI. In her book, Hand to Mouth, Living in Bootstrap America, Linda Tirado observed, being healthy and being poor are generally mutually exclusive conditions. We all have physical weaknesses, but a rich person gets these tended to before they get out of control. Poor people don't have that luxury. 5, consequently, poverty is a tremendous driver of healthcare usage, although it hasn't always been that way. 50 years ago, average cost for poor patients was less than that for wealthy patients. In 1992, they reached parity. By 2008, Medicare spending was 30 to 40% higher for low-income beneficiaries. 6, Dr. Richard Buzz Cooper examined usage rates within the Wisconsin hospital referral regions, where Milwaukee has a 35% higher usage rate than the rest of the state, measured in days used per 1,000 people. However, that usage was not uniform within the city. When those usage rates were broken out by zip codes, he discovered the poorest ones had an 85% above average utilization rate and concluded that lifting up the poor and near poor residents could decrease hospital utilization by as much as 35%. He wrote, quote, most of this increment was due to the very high rates of admission and readmission for chronic illnesses, such as congestive heart failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and diabetes, which were 4-fold to 7-fold more frequent among residents of the poverty corridor than among those residing in Milwaukee's more affluent suburbs. 7, children will gain some of the largest health benefits from UBI. When pregnant mothers are stressed, studies show they can pass along epigenetic hardships to their unborn children, leading to increased risk of many of the health issues that Dr. Cooper identified in Milwaukee. 8, childhood development is also impacted by economic stress in a household. Adults concerned about issues like rent are less talkative, and the amount of verbal engagement children receive is a key indicator of future success. A 2018 study estimating the economic cost of childhood poverty in the United States found that poverty also increases child maltreatment, which then drives foster care services and other child welfare programs. Their research suggested poverty was the direct cause of 30% of the children in the child welfare system. 9, the lifetime costs of childhood poverty are tremendous. The same study estimated that $1,030 billion for the cohort of children born in a given year. More than 1/3 was attributed to crime and incarceration, another 29% coming from reduced lifetime earnings. The authors concluded, children being raised in poverty do not have the same chances for success as children who are raised in middle or upper income families. This contradicts our belief in liberty and justice for all. 10, During the 1980s, researchers in the Great Smoky Mountains of North Carolina were studying the long-term psychological impacts of poverty on children there. Now, a few years into the study, profit sharing from a new casino boosted the family incomes of about a quarter of the participants. And the resulting control group provided an insight into the familial effects of reducing poverty. Parents reported a third less argument, less drug, less alcohol use, and children's behavioral disorder symptoms, they dropped 27%. When they grew up, they were 22% more likely to find a full-time job. 11. Many of the health benefits are directly attributable to empowering parents to make better decisions for their children. Parents all across the economic spectrum tend to spend extra money on their kids when they can. Fruits, vegetables, other healthier foods in the house are one common result of basic income experiments. In Alaska, babies who got a $1,000 oil dividend in the first year of their life were 4.5% less likely to be obese compared to those who first benefited as toddlers. 12. American union jobs recognize the value in the work that everyone does, even if it's not employment. UBI will let many families consider having a parent stay home during a child's formative years, further strengthening families. Proposal to address poverty with a higher minimum wage, they miss important boons like this one. UBI is an unconditional $300 a week raise for every adult, plus $100 for every child. It offers greater freedom to decide for oneself how to allocate time between work and leisure. 13. The cliche of the starving artist is well known. Now, with UBI to provide a minimum level of income, it's easy to imagine art colonies springing up with people pooling their incomes, sharing a house while they pursue their art. Others will form cooperatives around different businesses or industries. One can picture artisans working together to run small factories or farms, video game studios, boutique offerings of all sorts. With America enmeshed in the World Wide Web, the demand for global entrepreneurial services can be provided from anywhere. 14. For those engaged in traditional employment, American union jobs will provide greater liberty in choosing an employer, freeing people to seek right livelihood. They will also enable greater civic engagement. Occupy Wall Street needed about $1,000 a day for food in Zuccotti Park. And while people made sacrifices to be there, it was unsustainable. American union jobs bring the power to petition our government for redress of grievances on $300 a week. Campaigns could literally occupy Washington. 15. UBI unlocks large amounts of human potential that is currently trapped by poverty. The impact of economic stress has been tested in many ways, such as evaluating farmers in India before and after the harvest. The distraction of insecurity has been found to lower IQ by 13 points and to increase the number of errors that factory workers make. 16. Unsurprisingly, poverty is also a driver of crime. Basic economic principles suggest that people commit crimes if the benefits outweigh the cost. So poor people have a higher rate of return. Alaska discovered that property crimes fell in about 8% in the 2 weeks after their annual oil dividend was distributed. 17. This influence works in both directions. The criminal justice system disproportionately includes people in the lower quintiles of income. A Villanova University study concluded mass incarceration has increased the U.S. poverty rate by an estimated 20%. A family's probability of being poor is 40% greater if the father is imprisoned. 18. Many Americans would use their UBI to pay down student loans or other debts. As productivity has increased since the 1970s, wages have not kept up with these gains, resulting in an economic gap between the amount of wages that workers earn in the economy and the value of goods produced for sales. That structural deficit, which has been temporarily filled in by increasing consumer debt, can only be permanently bridged by an external source of income, or alternately negated by widespread defaults. American union jobs are essential to the continued prosperity of our nation. 19. Although they are unconditional, no one can be fired from an American union job any more than they can be fired from being an American. They do include job duties. They are a regular reminder of the 5 duties enumerated in the preamble: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. 20. Even the rare individual who does nothing productive in a given week is promoting the general welfare, prosperity, by spending $300, bridging that structural gap between wage income and productive output. This will rejuvenate local economies all across the nation as small businesses reap the rewards of new paying customers. An economy powered by UBI is a trickle-up economy. Money is spent multiple times as it works its way up the economic ladder. 21. As Americans, we can cooperate to ensure all of us have enough to meet our basic needs. This gives us greater freedom from economic coercion, providing the ability to walk away from abusive or exploitative relationships. The liberty to make meaningful choices about our lives is a critical component of happiness. The purpose of the American Union Jobs Program is to promote the general health, happiness, and prosperity, remind every American citizen of our duties to each other, and to end poverty. All right, that covers it for section 441. Let's just talk a little bit more about the universality of it. Money, cash is fungible. So when we have programs like the SNAP program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, it's not unheard of for people who receive those benefits that can only be used for food to sell them or trade them in order to get cash to meet their other actual needs, and sell them or trade them at a discount, because maybe you've got a garden and you've got the food that you need. Maybe this month you need help with rent, or your car is broken down. By giving people the decision, by empowering them to decide for themselves how best to improve their lives, that's what universal basic income does. That is the power of UBI. Scott Santens, who's a longtime advocate and researcher on universal basic income, he's written many articles on the topic. And 3 of the main points he makes is that the existing welfare structure allows many people to fall through. The safety net is full of holes. UBI is liquid infrastructure. It flows around, and there's no forms to fill out. It's like the child tax credit that we had last year for parents. It just arrived. And this is the catch-22 that many people who might be eligible or are on paper eligible for welfare programs or other assistance, is that they've got to jump through a bunch of hoops, and then maybe they'll get it. And so you got to decide if you want to invest your time into something that may or may not pay off. I also want to say some people have suggested allowing citizens to opt out. The Poor People's Campaign has called for universal basic income and for allowing people to opt out at 400% of the poverty line. And again, this is a terrible idea, because then it attaches stigma to receiving it. You can imagine the kids in the schoolyard, right? Look, there's Johnny over there. Johnny's so poor, his mom takes their UBI check. By making it a universal program, it puts everyone on the same page. A couple other points: means testing and making a program non-universal means higher administrative costs It means more administrative errors. And it creates a work disincentive. Okay. Well, if you're on whatever program you're on, and they say, okay, you're allowed to earn this much, and then we're going to cut off all your benefits. Well, okay, so if you get a job and you start to prosper, then they might yank the rug out from under you. And then what? Then if you lose your job, and as we saw during the pandemic, it happens to millions and millions of people through no fault of their own, then you're worse off than you were before. We've created an economic disincentive to seek employment for people that are on Social Security disability insurance. It can be a drawn out process to receive those benefits from somebody who is physically injured and unable to work. And while there might be other things that other jobs they could try and get, the danger is that they'll get cut off from the program if they start to prosper. And so we've created this disincentive to work. UBI doesn't have that because it is universal and unconditional. Everybody, even super productive people like Elon Musk, everybody gets the same amount, and everybody is guaranteed to start above the poverty line. What else? It talked about stigma and one other point there on those income levels is that sometimes if you've got a settlement for some way that some injustice has been committed, and you're compensated for it, sometimes that settlement can count as income and kick you off of programs, even though it's not a reliable source of income, but a one-time windfall. And so universal basic income, again, does not have that problem. It also doesn't have the problem because it's one set amount for every American, no matter where they are across the country. It doesn't have this bureaucracy of trying to judge people's cost of living. It doesn't encourage fraud where, okay, I can say I live in New York where the higher cost of living gets me a bigger UBI, and instead I'm going to live in rural Pennsylvania where it's cheaper to live. It doesn't encourage any of that kind of fraud. It's a simple yes or no. Are you an American citizen? Are you over 18? That's it. Very, very simple. As I think we're going to talk about later in this section, the administrative costs for Social Security right now are about 0.5%. And that's with a lot of bureaucracy. Not a lot, but that's with some bureaucracy of tracking everybody's payments, who worked this quarter, what their income was, amount of credits they have, all that kind of stuff. And so a universal program would be even simpler. And you could expect that their administrative costs would be about 0.25%. Not a bloated bureaucracy by any stretch of the imagination. All right. Well, now that we've talked all about why universal basic income is the best solution to end poverty and embrace our constitutional duty to promote the general welfare and Congress's constitutional responsibility to provide for the general welfare, let's get into the mechanics of how exactly this program works. And so I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go look at section 442 of the Blueprint for a Better America. And this one is definitions. All right. Most of these are just kind of common sense, pretty standard stuff, but let's emphasize the term adult is the same as we defined a couple days ago. It means someone who's over 18 or an emancipated minor. So if you're 16, you've been emancipated, you would qualify for UBI at the adult rate. Child is other than that. We talked about most of these things tie back in, a lot of these definitions tie back into the U.S. Treasury accounts. You know what? That's because I am in the wrong section. Sorry about that. 434. All right, 442 is where we're supposed to be at. Okay, here we go. Now let's look at the right section. All right, so create a new subchapter in the Social Security Act, Social Security chapter with two sections. The first is the definition. Here's where we spell out that adult means anybody, any citizen over 18 or a minor has been emancipated. The American Union Job is a universal program issuing periodic and unconditional payments of Treasury dollar bills for all citizens of the United States. They may not be withheld for any reason, including, but not limited to, age, ancestry, arrest record, bankruptcy, criminal conviction, debt, or other liability, gender, geographic location, income, marital status, occupation, race, religion, or sexual orientation. Universal means universal. Basic wage is that $15,600 a year to start. So we'll get into its index to inflation. Intern's wage is the children's amount, and that is 1/3 of whatever the basic wage is. Our job duties, as we've talked about, are those 5 duties from the Constitution. Poverty line is established under the authority of Section 9902 in Title 42. And all right, so now we're into the meat. The American Union Jobs Program, established by Social Security, headed by a deputy commissioner. And they're responsible for all the basic stuff, hiring people, doing regulations, rules, enrolling every citizen in the United States into the American Union Jobs Program. This is and establishing and maintaining the records, which may include all the basic information, including the preferred frequency of payments, which may be monthly, weekly, or any other approved time period. So people can make those decisions. Providing this to the Secretary of the Treasury, current list of recipients, and their corresponding digital Treasury accounts, so that the Secretary of the Treasury can deposit your universal basic income into that. And in the amounts for adults, parent or legal guardian of a child or children, and for children if under subsection E, paragraph 3. We'll get into that in a second. Yeah. All right. So they're also responsible for preventing fraud and abuse relating to American Union jobs, maintaining a website, and last but not least, reminding all adults of their voluntary job duties. Okay. Reminder, go be a good American, however you see fit. That's what your American Union job is for. No forms to fill out, no clock to punch, just America trusts you to do the best that you can. All right, basic wage for the calendar years prior to 2024 shall be $15,600 with a cost of living adjustment added for each year thereafter. Cost of living adjustment shall be calculated as basically the change in the consumer price index is the basic inflation. But in this case, it will preemptively compensate people for the expected cost of the value added tax, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. A 12% value added tax, which will in many cases be passed on to consumers. And so the UBI will be bumped up 12% to ensure that everyone stays above the poverty line. In 2025, again, that 12-month percentage change in the consumer price index. However, because 2024 is at this level, and then we're going to add on that 12% value added tax. So we can pretty much predict it's going to bump up 12% in that calendar year. So in 2025, since we've already pre-added it, we subtract that 12%, and then any remaining change is then the inflation for the year. But in any case, any case thereafter, that it will be the product of it'll make sure that it stays with the poverty line, or just a straight cost inflation increase from the previous year. Rounding, it'll be rounded to the multiple of 60, so $5 per month for those who get it per month. It'll be an increment of $5. All right, for kids, as we've said, $1,300 for adults per month, $433 for kids, and by default, half of that will go to each parent, equally among the parents or legal guardians, unless they do something else. Unless the parents or legal guardians agree to assign it in a different way, they may decide to go ahead and start depositing it in the child's digital account. If they don't need that extra $100 a week, they can essentially put it aside for the child for their future. And if there is a court order that divides the hours of residential responsibility throughout the week, then the proportion of the child's dividend would then go to the parents to match the percentage of time based on the number of days of residential responsibility each year pursuant to a court order. All right, a couple other things. Universal basic income is not considered substantial gainful activity under Chapter 7 of the Title 42 United States Code. So for people who are on Social Security, disability, or whatever, this does not count as substantial gainful activity that would kick you out of the program. That is not the intention. The intention is not to lift you up and then knock you back down. The intention is to lift everybody up. Shall not be considered wages, same thing in Section 209 of the Social Security Act. And they shall also apply the XX code to protect payments from garnishment. Again, this is an equal hand up that everyone gets unconditionally. We're all Americans. We can all look out for each other. Social Security Administration can use some startup funds from the Treasury, which would then be repaid in 10 years. But when the value-added tax goes into effect, 1% of that would go to Social Security. 1% of the money collected from the value-added tax would go to Social Security to cover the costs of this. There's a couple of reference changes, and then that pretty much does it for this section. Let's talk a little bit more about numbers. Okay, so 1% of the value-added tax is going to go into funding this, and again, you can project that Social Security's administrative costs are about 1/4 of 1%. And so the question is 1/4 1% of what? Well, we estimate there are 249 million adults and 71 million children that would be enrolled in this program. And so that means about $4.25 trillion in Treasury dollar bills would be issued. And these new taxes, the value-added tax and the pollution fees that we're going to talk about in a couple of days, those are going to claw back about half of it, leaving with us a net addition of about $2 trillion in the economy each year, added at the bottom. So it works its way up, a trickle up economy. And that is basically how the American Union Jobs Program works. Seeing no questions in the chat. Section 443 is just a straight repeal of the child tax credit, because what it's at now, $2,000 or $3,000 a year, depending on what exactly Congress does. We're going to stop treating it as a tax credit and instead run it through the Social Security program, because it is securing the social welfare of the United States. And so we're replacing the child tax credit with $5,200 a year universal basic income. That $3,000 tax credit that we have, that we're doing right now, how much are we currently paying for that? Working off the numbers from the Tax Policy Center, that's $183 billion that we've already allocated in 2024. And so you can count that as a savings, which helps pay for the Universal Basic Income Program. Again, there's going to be savings in all sorts of ways from Universal Basic Income, right? We protected Social Security disability. We're going to talk about Social Security supplemental security income in just a minute. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. All right. Section 444 is a section that was not in the blueprint as, so you can see the straight repeal of 443, was a section that was not in the blueprint as introduced to the Phoenix Congress back in January. But in talking to people and listening to concerns, there was concerns about this dollar amount that is their resource limit for people who are on supplemental security income, SSI. And we could see here that the numbers that we're crossing out for a single person is $1,500. And before that, if I remember correctly, was I want to say it was $1,000 or $1,200 when it was passed back in the 1970s. And this is one of those situations where this dollar amount got written into the law. And you can see in the 1980s that there was an effort to update it to keep it up with inflation. And so they bumped it up so that each of these years, 1985, 1986, 1988, 1989, they bumped it up a little, and then it stopped. 1989 was the last time that this asset limit was increased. And if you look at what Congress set it at when they first enacted this in 1972, I think it was, and you adjusted for inflation, to be well over $10,000 today. And so this asset limit, we're going to strike it, and we're going to replace it with the basic wage, starting at $15,600 a year for a single person, or double that for a couple. And that way that asset limit will increase along with inflation, so we don't have this problem again. I don't know how best to explain this asset limit. This is basically, if you have $2,000 in the bank, you're going to get kicked off of the supplemental security income. And they exempt a number of things. Like if you own your home, then great, that does not count as an asset. Do you want to save up money to buy a house? No, you're not allowed to save up money. You have to have less than $2,000 in assets, or bang, we're going to kick you off. When we say end poverty, this is a program that mandates people not have any savings. This is something that is long overdue for being changed and updated. Other income that counts in this $2,000 threshold for an individual is in-kind income. So anything that you get for free, like food or shelter or anything under its fair market value. If you live with your parents and they say, well, you're getting free room and board, that's like $1,000 a month. Well, then you're only allowed to have $1,000 in your bank account, or else you can get kicked off the program. There's also deemed income, which is the income of the spouse with whom you live. So if you want to get married, then you better expect that these benefits will go away, that your disability that qualifies you for this program will no longer apply. And this is problematic for many reasons. And so while the American Union Jobs Program does not get rid of these things, it does raise the asset limit so that, again, you can have a house, you're just not allowed to save up to buy one. We can address these kind of things. See if there's anything else in here. Yeah, all right. Well, I think that's sort of the basic, that's the basic thing. So this is an essential part of ending poverty, is lifting the supplemental security income restrictions, swapping out the child tax credit for a child UBI and an adult's universal basic income of $15,600 a month. And that will start every American above the poverty line. Doesn't matter if you're a single person, a single parent, a family of four, you're ensured that you will start above the poverty line. There is no reason why in the richest country in the world, we should have tens of millions of people living in poverty. We can do better. We have the ability. We just need a better way to organize, to influence Congress, a better way to exert the people's power over the system. And the way that we do that is unionizing as voters by coming together with one set of legislative demands and saying that, look, these are our terms. This is what we want for our votes. End poverty, end mass incarceration, end the endless wars. The general strike is on October 15th. Tweet out your support, that you will hashtag vote AU. You want people to vote with the American Union, or participate in the Fast for Peace. The Fast for Peace is simple. It's a 24-hour water only fast that members of the American Union can participate in to root our movement in nonviolence and to demonstrate that we are willing to sacrifice in order to improve the lives of every single American with the Blueprint for a Better America, to recognize that we are willing to compromise, that nobody likes everything that's in the blueprint, but we're willing to compromise, and fasting and compromise are two sides of the same coin. They're willingly giving something up. Now, as my own personal commitment to this effort, I have been fasting since we published the blueprint on September 24th. This is day 18, and I will continue through Saturday evening. I'm still feeling good, feeling great. Weighed in at 176 pounds today, so I'm down 25 pounds, but I'm feeling good and very much committed to ending poverty, ending mass incarceration, ending the endless wars, and just as importantly, de-escalating the midterms. The Republicans and Democrats want to make us fight each other. We can refuse to play. We can instead offer a fair solution, a fair set of demands to Republicans and Democrats alike, and let them compete to win our votes. So, all right. I think that about does it for this evening and the American Union Jobs Program. You know, I was skeptical about universal basic income when I first heard about it. But the more, and then, but it was Andrew Yang, when I used to live in New Hampshire, him coming to town, running for president, and talking about it, that I actually started looking into it a little more. And first I needed to be persuaded that we actually could do this thing, that we could actually just give people money to end poverty. But the more that I looked at it, the more I realized that not just that we could, but we should, that we must, that in the 21st century economy, this is the way to ensure a standard of living for all people, instead of right now where we've got 3 Americans who have more money, more assets than the bottom 50% of us. Things are all out of balance. And so universal basic income combined with a value added tax will establish a safety floor. It will address wealth inequality, and it will address so many societal problems by ending poverty. We can do it. We should do it. And with enough people join the Fast for Peace, the general strike against Congress on Saturday, October 15th, we will have the political power to make it happen. All right. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening.